Hello, my lovely listeners. Welcome back to another episode of DRL, where we're talking everything dating, relationships, and love. I'm your host, Tennesha Wood.
Guess who's finally back? Yes, it is me. I cannot believe how long I've been away from this mic. It's been way too long. The last episode I actually put out was in December of 2020. And you know what? We're just going to continue on with season 4 for the rest of 2021. And then we're going to pick it back up with a lot of new stuff in January 2022. And that's when we're going to start season 5. So there's going to be a whole new look, all new music. Everything's going to be fresh. But for now, I'm actually still sort of processing 2020. And that is where I have been for a good chunk of the last year of 2021. Let me tell you all about where I've been and what I've been doing. So like I said, the last episode I put out was December of 2020, and that was right after launching the Broom List. And for those of you who don't know, that is a matchmaking company that I started for Black professionals specifically. I guess when I started the Broom List, I really had no idea exactly how big it would become and how fast things would sort of accelerate. And so literally, I think I've spent most of that time just playing catch up and doing things for the Broom List. And it's been a really exciting journey, but also one that's taught me a lot. And I don't just mean from an entrepreneurship standpoint, but just like life and balance and family. And I feel like my biggest lesson out of 2020 and 2021 is definitely that it takes a village. So I'm going to just walk you through my 2020. So, March 2020, obviously, COVID hit, uncertainty in the world. Nobody knows what's happening or what's going to happen. Chris and I were living in Puerto Rico, and for us, like the beginning of the pandemic was actually really kind of nice in terms of just having more time together and, things were uncertain with work. So we really were just in the house, working out, eating right. Like we were healthy, like we were doing amazing. That went on for a while. And then in August of 2020, Chris's 2 daughters, who were 6 and 8 at the time, came down to Puerto Rico to live with us. So this was right before the beginning of the new school year. And obviously everybody was doing homeschool. Schools weren't open. So around that same time in September, October of 2020, I started the Broom List. So things got really busy. So here we are with 2 kids all day, every day, both running businesses, both trying to homeschool and, discipline and raise kids that were, probably raised a little bit different than I would have done it. So the frustration levels at times were like pretty high. And for those of you who have been listening to this podcast for a really long time, you know that like I'm kind of a risk taker, meaning, I'll drop everything I'm doing to go take a trip across the world and, try out a new relationship or quit my job if I don't feel like it's serving me or it's making me happy, or randomly move to Puerto Rico. So I've always sort of had that spirit. So I think when it came to, we're going to like raise these 2 kids during a pandemic in a 2-bedroom condo, that seemed like an okay idea, but there was definitely not enough like planning and preparation that went into that. And I was in no way prepared for all of it, actually. I mean, the ups, the downs, the highs, the lows, the good, the bad, the differences, like just kids, pandemic, homeschool, entrepreneurship in the house. Like it was a lot. And I think that, sort of what I always drifted back to during that time was just really focusing on the Broom List. Like I really felt like it was sort of my solace, really. It felt like at times like, well, this thing is going really well. And so instead of trying to, really, I think, fix the other things that weren't going so well, I just sort of fully dove in on the Broom List, which really yielded some great fruits and has been a really great part of my life. But I think that I did spend, a good chunk of 2020 and 21 sort of not paying attention to some of the other things that maybe needed some attention and fixing and healing. And one of those things was the fact that I was struggling with fibroids. And fibroids are really painful sort of cyst on your uterus that can, make it really difficult in terms of just like having children, reproductivity, a lot of other things. But throughout the pandemic, mine had grown in size, and also the symptoms were getting worse and worse. And so I was also dealing with that. And I got to a point last April, so this is now 2021 we're into, where I just was like, I think just overwhelmed with a lot. And so I did the thing I know how to do best when I get really overwhelmed, and I'm so thankful for this, but I went home to stay with my family. I actually brought the kids with me so that Chris could also, focus in on his stuff, but to have like the help and support that we needed. And like, God bless my mother, who was like, oh, I'm going to take some time off work and I'll homeschool the kids. And that was like such a relief. And again, so thankful just to like have a mother that would do that and be a part of the village to make it all happen. And that's exactly what she did. Like, she took some time off work, set up a whole school in the basement. Like, it was really, really dope, and like made me just so thankful to have a situation like that. So went home, and during that time, I also decided that I would have the fibroid surgery. I'd been thinking about it for a while, but had been, once again, just procrastinating on all things that were not the broom list at the time. And so ended up getting the surgery in July, and it went really, really well. They had to do what's called an open myomectomy, which is basically where they cut you like a C-section. And so they just cut you open, cut through the muscle, take out the fibroids, stitch you back up. And then the healing process for that can be long and painful. But thankfully for me, it wasn't too bad from other, stories that I've heard. And my parents, again, took time off work, like were taking care of me. Like I felt really loved during that. I always feel really loved by them, but like, to me, it just like my family's the best, seriously. My brother also came home and just like hung out, spent time. When I went to the hospital, it was funny because I brought like everybody. So my parents were there, my brother was there, Chris was there. Like my surgeon was just like, "Oh, you brought a whole squad." I'm like, "Yeah, I got people watching." That was my way of saying, "Don't do anything crazy. I got a whole waiting room full of people out here ready." Okay. Yeah. So that brings us to right about now, which is September 2021, and I'm feeling better from a health standpoint. I'm feeling better emotionally, and like I do have more of a village behind me that, is helping and understanding some of the things that I'm going through. And that feels really good because I think I just kept a lot of things in, but I'm just at the point where I'm ready to like release, ask for the help I need in all areas that I need them, and make the rest of 2021 great. And then, like I said, 2022, I cannot believe it is almost 2022. That's wild. But 2022 coming back, season 5, all new everything. But for the rest of season 4, I do have some really great guests and some new segments that I'm going to introduce. So one of those segments is going to be TBL on DRL, which basically stands for the broom list on dating, relationships, and love. And that's where I'm going to be featuring some of our clients and members, and they will share a little bit about them. And then if you want to meet them or get in touch with them, you will just reach out to me or us here and, let me know a little bit about yourself. And if all connects, I will connect you guys. And if you want more information on the broom list, you could just go to my website, TeneshaWood.com, and it'll give you all the information there. One of the things that people have been asking for a lot is, doing more listener questions. So I will be doing those every show, at least a couple at the end of every show. So if you have a question, again, just go to my website, TeneshaWood.com, and on the DRL tab, you can submit a listener question. So I am ridiculously excited to be back. Like, I also realize like DRL is like my cathartic, therapeutic when I'm going through something. Like there's always somebody that reaches out and is like, oh, you know what you should do? Or I had a thought on this, or I've been through the same thing. So not being here, I think was, part of not being around that village that made, the last year and a half even harder. So I'm back. I'm glad to be back, and feel free to reach out at Tennesha Wood on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or at my website, TeneshaWood.com, and let me know what you think of today's show. And as we move forward, would love to know what you guys want to hear for the rest of this season and the upcoming season. So please feel free to reach out anytime at Tennesha Wood on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and my website, TeneshaWood.com. And until next time, wish me love.
Hello again, my lovely listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of DRL. If you like the show, be sure to go on iTunes and leave a rating and also write a review. And don't forget to share with your friends and tell them all about DRL. Thank you so much for supporting.